everybody. There we go. There everybody is. Hi everybody. Hi Diana. Hi Sharon. Nice to see you. Good morning Stephanie. Who else is here? Debbie and Wendy and Marlene and Amy and Karen and a lot of other people because it went past so fast. Hope everybody's doing well today. I'm so glad to see you all. Good morning Donna. Hi Debbie. So today we're going to be working on a really fun, hopefully, card because I haven't made it yet. And we actually made this. Hi Tammy, happy birthday. Today is Tammy's birthday. She is one of my team members on the Rainbow Stamper. So happy birthday. I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. I know you're on the West Coast, so it's early, so it just started. Hi Jackie, hi Kay. So today I made a card at our last card class. Actually, I shouldn't say I made it. Amy, who's on here, was kind enough to bring in her stamp set and her punch. So my stamp set came, but my punch is on back order. But I'm going to share with you guys what it is. Let me move this out of the way. So I am going to be using the Posted for You stamp set. So I did a lot of this ahead of time for what Amy brought for me. You're double nickels today. Well, congratulations. That's awesome. Now, my stamp set that I ordered, which is this one, so you can buy it in a bundle, and I put this on the top of the page. My stamp set's on back order. I think it should be in a few days. So the stamp set is on back order, but you still can get the bundle. However, the stamp set will just come later, just so you know. But I thought this was really neat. So look at all the cool, you can make really cool cards. So this one here is a nice one you can make. They also have some really pretty examples. But I thought, thinking outside the box, you know, like I like to do, this one here is another one. And this actually uses the stamp set. I thought it'd be really cool if you could make something kind of different and unusual. So my card, actually, I have punched out some things, and I was telling Amy about it when we were in Stamp Club, and I was telling her about what I was planning on doing. So that's what I'm going to do today. So that is my plan. I'll show you what I've done. I've only kind of punched some things, so I'm going to kind of work around, and that's pretty much all I have. I am going to share with you that I used, and I'm going to get this out so you can see it. This is part of that big, I don't know if it's called a kit or suite. It's a medley. That's what it is, because it has stamps. Sorry, you can't see that because of the light. And it also comes with coordinating dies. So you can cut out these little trees, which I know you can't see that because it's gray, but you can cut out these little trees. Then it also has a big die cut for the large tree. It has some stuff for sentiment. So it's got 2, 4, 6 different dies. So hopefully, if you haven't seen this yet, the other cool thing is it comes with some ribbon. And it comes with lots of DSP. And I think this is one of the coolest things. This is the reason that I bought this medley, because the DSP is so awesome. Actually, I saw Dawn Griffiths share this particular DSP, and I was like, did I miss something? Well, clearly I did, because this comes with it. So it's got these reindeer, and they all have foil on them. It has some really, really pretty papers. And let me get this light adjusted a little bit so it's not quite so glary. Then it has these presents, and they have foil on them too. It's got a lot of really nice paper, but the other part is it also has these stripes, which you could use for Valentine's. It has kind of a, I don't want to say it's generic because it's not really generic, but it's very versatile to be able to use at any time. It also has these stripes, so you could use those for anything. And then of course you have like Christmas trees, so you have your Christmas tree paper. And you have candy canes on one side. It also comes with some stickers. So it's lots and lots of stuff. So I just saw somebody commented on here. So you must be Megan. Megan, you must be somewhere on the other coast. You must be on the other side of the pond is what I meant to say. So either in England or Australia. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate everybody that stops in. Even if you're on the other side of the world, I think sometimes that's fun. That's the fun part about being able to do these live, because it doesn't really matter where you are. Somebody's always awake. Because I know I watch a lot of stuff late at night as well. So I think that's kind of funny, because if you can watch stuff late, you can watch stuff early, you can watch the replay. I know someone on here said they were making breakfast. So cool part is you can always come back later. And if you're watching this on the replay on YouTube, which right now I'm live on Facebook, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can also leave a comment. And by the way, make sure you do leave a comment. And I'm going to draw some winners as soon as we're done before we go out and do our rest of the day stuff. Today we have off from school, so I'm so excited. So as soon as I knew it was a Wednesday, I was like, I got to do a Facebook Live. So Facebook Live today. I will be live again tomorrow. I think tomorrow evening I'm going to do YouTube Live, and then I'll be live again on Saturday. Not sure what time morning, so pay attention for that, but I will post something one way or the other. And I think that's it. So I want to share one other card that I made with you. So I'm going to give you a little peek of it. But then I'm going to show it to you once I flip this flat, because I used some different stuff for this. So this is one of those bundles. We made a card with this at Stamp Club, and it's one of those bundles that's kind of hard. So I'm going to show you the one that I redid the other day in case you missed the video. This was my original card, and this used, I still cannot remember the darn name of this folder. Hold on, let me look real quick since I have my catalog here. Folders. I feel like it's stitched something. No. What in the world? I wonder if I'm using one that's like not valid any longer. It can't be. Maybe it is. It might be the basket weave one that we had that went along with the, no, it's the textile. I knew it. So this is the Tasteful Textiles. And then I remade it with the Old World folder. And I really like the Old World folder. I think if I would have done this again, I actually would have made it so it was sticking up instead of in, which is really cool. But this one was one of the ones. So this was the well-written dies. And then there's the well-said is the stamp set. And this one sometimes is very hard to figure out exactly what to do with it, because the words and the die cuts don't exactly match up how you think they would. So I've really had a hard time with this one. But what I did was, it also comes with a lot of really neat dies. So this is a flower die. So what I did was I just did 4 different colors of Stampin' Blends, and then I cut it out. So this is like a gradient blue, but it's just done with Stampin' Blends. So that worked out really, really well. So I'm going to show you that one. I'm going to flip you down. Let me move these catalogs. Scoot these over. I don't think I need them. And once I flip you, and I'm going to put my lights back over here now. Once I flip you, I'm going to plug in. So I'm going to turn you around. So just bear with me 1 minute. Okay. Hello, Kathleen from sunny Florida. Thank you for joining. Let me move my comments over and let me plug you in. Okay. So I just want to make sure. I want to give it a second. You are flat now, so if you looked away, you can go ahead and look back. And I just want to make sure I did plug in. I want to make sure the volume is working. So if for some reason it's not, just let me know. Move all this stuff out of the way, and I'm watching myself. It looks like it's on there. I'll bring this in so I can tell that I moved. Okay, so this is a little bit closer of a look. I actually used the white felt for this. So I cut this with an oval, one of the layering ovals. And then I felt like it was kind of see-through. So what I ended up doing was I put a scalloped oval behind there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I layered a scalloped oval behind it because it made it a little bit darker, and then I popped it up on dimensionals. So all I did was I glued this down. So I just took my blends. I'm just going to show you just quickly on this. So if you take your blends and you just go down and mix the colors together, I don't want to do this because this was something I was potentially working on. Let me show you what I mean. So say you're going to go with, this is Seaside Spray and Misty Moonlight and we'll go with Balmy Blue. Okay, so just kind of pick something that's in the same family. And what I did was I started with the lightest, so light Seaside Spray. Then I went darker, so dark Seaside Spray. And you want to make sure you kind of go up into the other one. You can always go back and reblend too, since you're in the same color family. Then I went down to, and I'm going to skip the light. I'm going to go to dark Balmy Blue. Then I went to light Misty Moonlight. And I'm going to go back a little bit with the dark Balmy Blue, just to blend these two together. And same up here. And then dark Balmy Blue. And then the same thing again with the light Balmy Blue. So what you'll end up getting, and it does take a minute for it to dry, for you to, it won't have, if you go over it more and you have a wider path, you won't have these gradient lines. The other thing you can also do is you can go back with, and I'm going to do my darker Seaside Spray, is you can kind of go back with the darker just to make it blend, the lighter and the darker, because the colors will kind of merge together. They're very well merged on this part up top. These I kind of sped through a little bit faster. But if you go through, that one was the light. And then I'm going to do, I wanted the light, where's my light? Balmy Blue. Here it is. If you go through, you'll end up with a really nice kind of a gradient color. And then I just took my die and cut. So you could do this for most anything. I think it kind of works out well because you have the white space with these. But all you're going to do is just run a die cut. It could be an oval. You could just use this for a decorative piece if you wanted to. You could do an oval. You could do a circle. And then you can put this behind something and it really gives a cool look. And then all I did was I tried to keep it really simple since I use this and the foam, or not the foam, the felt. I just put Get Well. And I just stamped it on a circle. I did pick a color that was here. So this is Misty Moonlight. And then the other thing I did is I just embossed the one flap with the subtle embossing folder just to give it a little bit more texture. But quite honestly, there's not very much to this card. It looks like it's very involved, but it really isn't, because you could do a huge piece of cardstock for this, and then you could cut multiple pieces out of it. You could cut multiple pieces out of your felt, which would make it really easy, and then just stamp a really simple sentiment. So that's really an easy way to make a card like that. So just in case you're looking for something to do, maybe with your blends, and you don't really know what to do with them, that is always a fun idea. I also am participating again in Team Stamp It. We always do a holiday helper, which has some projects. So if you are not a subscriber to my email platform, make sure you do, because we are going to send out some Christmas. They're kind of like treat holders or fun little things that you could make. They are completely free. So if you're a subscriber, you will already get them, but make sure that you are a subscriber if not, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I did. So I am going to use this for the sentiment of what I want to do. So hopefully that will make sense. But here we are with the Posted For You stamp set, and these are some of the images. Let me scoot these over. So you have these really pretty lilies, and you could use these as postage stamps, which I thought would be really cool to send someone a card that looked like a postcard. So just a one layer card. You wouldn't have to have a flap. You could have it so on the back you wrote, which I think would be neat. You could use these as the stamps, because I love stamps. I buy all kinds of stamps, obviously, for sending out cards. The Rainbow Stamper loves stamps as well. We all, right now, we have a lot of train stamps and T-Rex. But these have really nice sentiment, so you could use these for any occasion. But I thought it'd be really fun if we made these into like a Christmas card style thing, but not necessarily using the stamp. So again, I apologize because my punch didn't come in, but I punched these out. Thank you to Amy. She let me use her brand new punch and stamp set. She hadn't even used it. So these are from the Most Wonderful Time. So here's the candy cane side, or candy canes, or you could use the stripes. Then you have the Christmas trees that have gold foiling, or just plain candy canes. So you could switch it up. So those are two. But I also made some that were exactly matching. So I thought the stripes would be fun. And then the other side is the stars. And then I also have the presents. And then the other side is bows. I don't really love the bows. That's not my thing. So I like the present side. So we're going to do one with that first. We're going to make one simple one. And then we're going to take it, and I'm going to flip this over because I'm actually going to use this. Then we're going to take it up a notch and make something a little bit more fancy. So what I'm trying to do with this is to show you, again, at least 3 ways we could make something. We're going to start with simple, then we're going to work our way up. So I'm going to try to stick with, for this, every single card, I'm going to do, I think I'm going to do Old Olive. So I'm going to grab 2 full sheets of cardstock, so 8.5 by 11. So technically we could make 4 cards with this. And we are going to definitely need some white, but for now I'm going to just stick with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and score these. I'm going to move this over. So we could make these so they're both the same direction, but just for sake of making it a little bit different, we'll do 2 different ones. So I'm going to score the first one, which, in case you don't have this Stampin' Up! Trimmer, I know a lot of times I use my guillotine trimmer because I cut a lot of stuff. This one is really good if you don't have a trimmer and you're doing scoring and cutting at the same time. The light blade is for scoring, the dark blade is for cutting. So I'm going to move the dark blade out of the way, and I'm going to go ahead and score this at 4 1/4. And then I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to cut at 5 1/2. So then you'll have 2 card bases. I just cut all my nails down last night because they were getting on my nerves. So a little harder to pick stuff up. So there's 2 bases. And then we'll do this the opposite way. So we're going to score this time at 5 1/2. And then we'll turn it and we'll cut at 4 1/4. So then we have 2 long bases. So in case you've never heard of this before, maybe you're new to card making or Stampin' Up, we usually will call these hot dogs and hamburgers because they're long and skinny and short and wide. So basically two of the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with one of these. This one is going to be our really, really easy card. So we're going to just fold this in half, and we're going to reinforce the fold with our bone folder. Then I'm going to take these because I think it'll be simpler. We're going to take these 4. So we're going to just put this down like this, and we're going to kind of figure out that's going to be what our pattern is going to look like, right like that. And then I'm going to grab, and I want to stick with something that's kind of slim. So I'm going to do Oh Christmas Tree. And what I'm going to do, you could do this one of 2 ways. We could either cut out a strip, but since I have it here, I'm just going to do it this way, make it simple. I'm actually going to stamp this, and then we're going to cut it with this die that comes with it, okay, just to make it a little bit easier. So let me grab a piece of white cardstock. You could also, if you wanted to make this blingy, you could do this in gold embossing, but I'm going to make this one very simple to start. So I think what we'll do is we're going to go with Old Olive for our ink. And then I'm even going to show you something else just for this card because it is pretty simple what we could do to step it up. So we could either do it really, really simple. I just want to make sure that I have enough paper there. Really simple, or you could make it a little bit more stepped up. All right, so there is our greeting. So let me close this. And I'm going to go ahead and die cut this for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this onto our, still have my Big Shot. If you have the newer die cutting machine, you're just going to need to refer to your sandwich. But I'm going to try to keep it so it is even for the most part. So I probably could have stamped this a little bit more over, so it might be just slightly uneven, but that's the way we're going to go. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. Oops, it moved. That's my fault. You know why? Because my thing wasn't ready. Make sure that's looks a little bit better. Oh, you know what? I have my purple tape because that green stuff stuck the other day. I'm going to just tape this with a little piece of purple tape. This is very well loved purple tape because you see it's already peeling, which is no big deal because all it's doing is kind of just holding it in place for you. All right, so this will be one. You can see popped right out. Oh, note to self, next time I have to leave myself at least a little rim of fingernail or else that's going to make everything so much harder. I'm going to flip this over. So if you ever have trouble with this too, just a little tip. This is the take your pick tool. I love the spatula and that's my favorite thing. I think the only problem is I use the spatula so much that sometimes I almost flatten it. I wish they had like a replacement spatula. And then you also have the paper piercing part on the other end. All right, so let me set that over there. So this will be our greeting. So if you wanted to make this, this is really simple, okay? Simple, simple, simple card. If you wanted to make this a little bit more complicated, what you could do is you could pop these guys up on dimensionals. But what I'm going to do is just to make it a little bit bigger, and I notice it's a teeny bit crooked, but that's okay. I'm going to pop this up on dimensionals. So to start, I'm just going to put a little bit of liquid glue on. It's a problem of not doing my lives as often. My glue is actually starting to get a dry tip from sitting, being bored. All right, so there's these two. I'm going to start with two. And I'm just going to put these, eyeball them down. The reason also I'm using the liquid glue is because if it's for some reason a little bit crooked, I can adjust it. I'll bring that down a little bit. I think that looks pretty good. These are pretty well adjusted. I have a little smear of glue, but I'm just going to wipe that off. And if you wanted to, you can even do opposites. So you could do one with the stripes and one with the stars, but I'm going to do both the stripes for now for this first one. So it's very matchy-matchy. And then same thing again, I'm just going to pick this up. I'm doing my very best to kind of line it up with this end and then line it up with the bottom. Doesn't have to be 100% perfect though. And if you really wanted to get crazy with it, you could also make sure that your stripes lined up, but I'm not quite that particular. Okay, so there's that. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, I have a little bit of leftover dimensionals. So I'm going to put these, let's see if this is too many. Nope, perfect. I'm going to pop this up. But I'm going to do one more thing just to make it a little teeny bit fancier. Not super duper, just a little bit. Is this also comes with, where are they? Sorry, they're in the very bottom. It also comes with stars in that medley. And I know I haven't used a whole lot of them, so I'm just going to pick up a star. Oops. And put it here. One. Maybe I might as well do two. I probably could have lined this up just a teeny bit better, so you do a better job of lining up than I did. I'm going to peel this off and I'm going to stick it right in the middle. So this basically just used the punch. Everything else was from the medley, the Most Wonderful Time medley. So that's number one. So this is pretty simple, right? Pretty simple card. You could use up lots of your DSP to do this one. That way you would have lots of things to do with it. Now, if we're going to step up to card number two, I'm going to do a little different. So for this one, I have my base here. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stamp my base with the buffalo check stamp. Okay, so I'm going to fold this, and the reason I'm folding it is, once again, I'm not going to use more than one layer. I'm just going to make this layer look a little bit fancier. It's not really that much fancier, just a little bit fancier than the first one. So I have my buffalo check stamp. Now, the bigger background stamps, I tend to just leave these in here, and then I'll wipe them off when I'm finished. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up, I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to ink up my stamp. Just go directly down because it's easier. And also I think it's kind of easier sometimes to do this if you have a hard time with your grip or with pressing with stuff. It makes it a little simpler because you don't have to flip it and hope you got it in the right spot. All you're going to do is you're going to take your paper, and I just emptied out my recycle bin. So let me see, I have an order form right here. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to just go with it. Wherever it lands is where it lands. So I'm going to put it down just like so. And I'm just going to grab a scrap of paper and I'm just going to press and just push it down. If you really want to push it, you could also use your bone folder. And that's pretty much it. Move this over. And then when I'm done, to make sure I don't goof it, I just kind of flip it like that. So then you have buffalo check, really simple. And then the nice part about this is, oops, I did make sure these were damp before I started, is you could just take your chamois and just wipe. If you really want to, you could absolutely go to the sink and rinse this off, which I may because this is the second green I've had on here. if you don't happen to have the coordinating color for this, so if you didn't have Old Olive and you were using Old Olive, the other thing you can do is you can stamp in Versamark, but it's going to be a little bit lighter, okay? So this is simple. I might have mislined the edge a little bit, but that's no big deal. Then what we'll do is, to make it a little sparkly, we're going to put the presents. So we'll do presents here. Now this time I'm going to pop them up. Okay, and I'm not going to go with Oh Christmas Tree. I want to pick something a little different. So I'm going to do Deck the Halls. So let me just wipe this off. And pull out Deck the Halls. And then let me scoot this over. We will do this because we have a lot of green going on. We will do this in real red. All right, so we're going to do the same thing again. So we're going to pop these up this time. The only other thing we need to do is get a piece so we can, oops, oh, you know why? Because I left it over here. So we can stamp. Okay. So this time I'm going to try to make sure I give myself a little bit more room just for die cutting. All right, so same thing again, very simple. And we can do this one the same way. Now I am going to do one thing extra for this. So we're going to put the Deck the Halls. I'm going to try to make sure I line this up so it's pretty well lined up. I'm going to put it right there because it's not 100% dry yet. But I want to just add just one more little tiny thing to this. So what I'm going to do, and I already have a couple of these cut out. This is a different shade of green though. So I'm going to go with a different shade. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. Also, one other thing, your trees don't have to be green. You could do gray. You could do, this is garden green, but you could do it stamped off. There's also little candy canes you can add to it. So there's lots of different things you can do in this stamp set, just little teeny pieces of things. So I just started kind of cutting these. The only other thing I need to do, I actually even did these before in Donna's favorite, Mint Macaron, and then that was in Pretty Peacock. But the mint does look really pretty as a tree, just in case. That's a Pretty Peacock tree. I am going to put these into one of those little clear folders like I suggested. That way they don't get stuck. The other thing I want to show you is when it does do the presents, it cuts them out individually. They don't get all cut out as one. So I know a lot of times people would be, well, I don't really need 3 presents. It does cut them out as 3 different presents. So I'm going to get out my tree die and I want to stamp my tree stamp, and we're going to cut that out as well. All right, so grab one more stamp block and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to do this in Old Olive. However, I'm going to stamp it off first because I don't want it to be super duper dark. So I'm just grabbing my scrap again. I'm going to ink up my stamp. And we're going to stamp it and then stamp it again. Okay, and close this. All right, so you can see that's much darker. And this one is much lighter. So if you wanted it dark, you could, but I like to try to kind of vary the amount of stuff, especially because there's a good amount of green on here. And let me grab one more little piece of purple tape. The purple tape is actually a really, really low tack tape. You could also use Post-it notes if you can't find purple tape. And I believe they also make one that's kind of, that's a yellow tape. I believe is a different brand. I don't know which brand the purple tape is, but yellow tape is also a really, really low tack. So I'm just going to run both of these through my die cutting machine. Okay, so there they are, and this one's stuck again. Probably need to flip this over. It's been cut quite a lot, so I'm just going to pop this through just to get this one out. Okay, so there you go. So we have our sentiment, and then we have our other tree. One of the secrets with this purple tape as well is if you pull it back onto itself, because this is the very first time I used this piece, it still is sticky. So make sure you give a little bit. The ones that are pretty used, they come off pretty simply. So there's that. And now we're going to put this one together. So I am going to put all of these up on dimensionals. So I'm going to flip these over. And we're going to also put up our tree and our sentiment. And we might need a little bit, something a little bit different, only because we're going to pop some of these up. So we might need more than one dimensional. So just kind of keep that in mind. Or more than one layer of dimensional. So we're going to do two for each should be fine. Two. All right, I'm going to hold on to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to place these first. And once again, if you have any issue, just kind of line them up before you start. You can even use the pattern of your buffalo check if you want to kind of do some spacing. Just really depends on what you want to do. But I'm going to flip one of these over. You could also put liquid glue on this too if you were worried about not being able to line it up correctly. So I'm just sitting it. I'm not even pressing it yet because I want to make sure that I get at least two of them lined up correctly. And this one has presents kind of going all different directions. So you're pretty good if you pick something and you're not really sure if you did or didn't line it up correctly. Because they're pretty forgiving because they're all different shapes and sizes. So it kind of makes it easy to be able to use. That looks good. And last one. Now, if you do put a whole lot of dimensionals, you might need to use a little bit more postage. So just kind of keep that in mind. I think those look pretty good. So then what we're going to do is we're going to put our little tree here. And we'll put our deck the hall. So I'm going to pop this one up on dimensionals. And this one's going to go flat down, but what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to put a star on top of this. So I'm going to put a little glue kind of on the bottom. I'm not going to really do any on the middle because it's going to go in between those two pieces. So I'm just going to kind of set this like that where I think I want it. Pull this off. Oops, got one stuck to my finger. Probably could have skipped this one here, but I'm going to move this up a little bit. Oh my gosh, I'm really not happy with myself that I trimmed my nails this short. I can't grab anything. Ding dong. Okay, there we go. That's pretty good. I don't want to push this in too much that it goes flat, so that's why I'm trying not to press too hard. Probably could have spaced my dimensionals a teeny bit better. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to grab one and put it down here. That way it'll hold that one up. There you go. Nope, now that one's drooping. Son of a gun. Let me put one more in here too. Okay. There you go. That way that's sticking up a little bit better. And then for the last thing, I'm going to pick up one of the stars. Well, I'm going to try. These are usually not that hard to get out. And pop that up on top. Oh my dear Jesus, come on. Work with me. There we go. Okay, so really not a lot. Same thing again. The only thing we added to this was we did add dimensionals and we added our background stamp. Okay, so a little bit of a step up there. So for the third one, we're actually going to add an extra layer. So this will be the one that is like the really much fancier one than that. Okay, no saggy parts. Exactly. There you go. Yeah, you don't want saggy parts. That's never good for anything. So for the final one, what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to do the bigger tree. So I'm going to stamp the larger tree. Actually, we could stamp the larger tree. Probably could even stamp some presents. I'm going to show you what this looks like. We're going to do this one together, even if I don't end up using it, just so you can see what it looks like. So let me take this off. I'm going to put the tree on. And I'm going to take off the other little tree. And these also are, they are very photorealistic images. So specifically this tree, it does look very, very realistic when you look at it. But if you over ink it, it's not going to give the detail. It's just going to look very muddled. So if you stamp this and you're like, that just doesn't look like what it looks like on the picture, move your ink over with your spoon and give that a shot and see if that helps. So the presents actually have two parts. So they have the boxes and then they have the top. So we're going to do those separately. So I have that, and I want to cut these out so you can see what they look like. And then we have our tree die. So I think we'll do that for the final one. Before I start, I'm going to go ahead and do the stamping. That way it has a little bit of time to dry, and then we'll move on to the other pieces. I think I'm going to need one more piece for my tree because that's not quite big enough. So we'll just do both of these at the same time. So this tree does look a little bit different. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the tree with Old Olive. So since it's a little bit bigger of an image, I'm just flipping it over and doing it that way. So I'm going to stamp the tree. Now, one other thing you can do, because this has a lot of space, so you could do this two ways. You could take your blender pen while you've just finished, and you can kind of bring a little bit of the color into your tree. I'm just going to show you what I did at the top there. So you're just doing this kind of, not while your ink is wet. It's not really necessarily wet, but you can still move it. So I just did right here. So you could kind of fill in the space. If for some reason you stamp all these and then you wait until after the fact, the other thing you could do, and you can see there's a lot in here already, is you could take your blender pen, just a little bit because you don't want it to be too dark, and you could just bring in some color. If you do it this way, I would definitely suggest kind of going in wisps. That way it kind of looks like branches. So you almost will add a little bit of depth to it this way as well. I'm just going to fill this in. This was a last minute addition. I honestly wasn't going to do this for this, so bear with me. I'm going to just bring in the edges first, and then I'll put a little bit more ink into the center. Okay. So I'm kind of trying to make it have almost like that faux, what branches would look like by doing my just little strokes. And I'll go over the edges just a little bit. Just so it's not so stark with the green and the white. Okay, so what I did was I kind of just filled that in a little bit with the color, right? So there's that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the boxes on the trees in Old Olive as well, but I'm going to stamp it off, and then we'll do the ribbons in red. So I'm going to stamp this off on my scrap first. And you could even, now you would have to do this in different steps if you were going to do it, so keep this in mind. So I'm not going to do it for this one particularly. But you could even do your ribbon portions embossed with gold embossing, but you have to make sure that you let it dry in between, because if not, it's going to be really, really goopy. So I'm going to close this Old Olive. The other thing you could do too is you could add the candy canes to your Christmas tree if you wanted to, because there's those candy cane stamps. You could do that. I'm going to do the ribbons in real red. And since this is photopolymer, it's pretty easy to line up. So I'm going to make sure it's facing the correct direction. And I'm just going to do my very best. I can't see quite as well because I have the camera here and I don't want to stick my head in. Hopefully that's good. You could also use your Stamparatus if you wanted to be super particular. That's actually not so bad. Probably could have gone down a teeny bit on these, but not too bad overall. So you have those. If for some reason something doesn't look just like you want it to, so this one still does have the color on it, you could kind of blend your packages a little bit so you have a little bit more shading on one side. Yeah, I definitely could have lined these up a little bit better, but no worries. I'm going to just kind of add a little bit of shading to the bottom. Try not to mix your red and your green because you're going to end up with a really yucky muddled color if so. There we go. So for the most part, I just blended a little bit of the edge for the shading of that, but it definitely isn't lined up as well as it could be. So then what you're going to do is you're going to take your die, and I'm going to aim for the bow. Even though I know the bottom isn't quite as well lined up, I want the bow to be cut very well. So I'm going to put a little piece of tape here. Same thing with my tree. Put a little piece of tape here. And I kind of like the fact that it's stamped dark and then we use the lighter blender pen and we blend it in the color. That way it does look a little bit more realistic because it has different shades. So I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. All right, so this is going to be the stamped portion. So I'm going to put this over here, but I want to do one more thing. And I want to grab, I'm actually going to, and I should have cut this, but that's okay. We'll just do this. I'm going to use this one, and we may use it this direction. I'm not really sure what, but I'm actually going to cut this down. Let me trim this because I'm going to use a layer on this one. So we're going to cut this to 4 by 5 1/4 for the last one. Okay. So this will be, oops, our layer. And I brought over a couple folders. I guess you could pretty much use really whatever one you wanted. I brought over, I don't know, the brick and mortar. Actually, I don't know if this one might be the one that's retired and we now have a new one. But I also brought over the old world folder. So I think I'm going to do this one. And what I'm going to do is, remember when I showed you the card the other day? If you have the Stampin' Up logo facing up, it'll be debossed. If you have it facing up, it'll be embossed. So I'm actually going to flip it. And the only reason I'm flipping is you could use either side, but I'm going to flip it so you can see the Stampin' Up portion is down, and I'm putting my cut side down. So we're going to run this through. And when you have this one, this is the Stampin' Up that does not have Sizzix on it, okay? So this one runs through a little bit differently. I'm going to look and see. I can't remember if I do or don't need the blue plate because I know every time I feel like I do it, it's different. Yep, that's good. So that one is just the blue plate. If you have the new die cutting machine, it shouldn't make a difference whatsoever. So here's that. So we have that piece there. If you want to add a little something extra to this, you could always take your ink pad, and you could do this many, many different ways. You don't have to do it this way, and this might be too much, but we'll see in a minute. You could take your ink pad. I'm just going to grab a scrap, and you could just drag it really lightly over top to kind of make those pieces stick up, the little bumps stick up a little bit more. I'm being really, really light because if not, it's going to be way too dark. So just drag your ink pad. You could also sponge it. You could just sponge the edges if you wanted to. Lots of different possibilities with that. All right, so let me fold this with my bone folder. Okay, so we're going to have our layer that's going to go on top. We're going to see what this looks like when it comes together because this might have been too much. You never know until you try, right? So I don't know. It might look really cute with doing the red. Got the trees and I have the candy canes. Let's see. Which one do we like better? I kind of like the trees. And I like the red stripes just because it's fun. But if we're going to add the tree, I'm almost wondering if we should keep this down just a little notch. Let's see. So there's that. We have our, I'm going to actually spread these out just a little bit and just follow me for a minute to see if we can make this work. So I have my tree. And put our tree over here. So I'm just kind of laying this out before I start. Oh, and you can see one of these already fell out. So these, these do come out really simply because they are completely cut. So you have a little present. And this might be too much for the front of this. So I might end up omitting the presents, or maybe we'll put one on the inside. Present, yeah, I think maybe we'll put one of these on the inside if we do it. We're going to go like that. And I think I'm going to stamp Oh Christmas Tree, and I'm going to stamp it on a little scrap. I wonder if I have one here. We can use this. All right, so Diversion, only because that was a little bit much. So I'm going to go with Oh Christmas Tree once again, and I'm going to do it in real red. You could also emboss it if you wanted to. Lots of possibilities. And maybe we'll put a present on the inside. We'll have to see. All right, there's that. Let me grab my scissors. Okay. I'm going to just trim this down a little bit closer. If you have any little scrappy pieces, you could do that too. That way it would already be done. And I'm going to go ahead and just flag the end, because I want this to be a little bit longer if I can keep it that way, if my flags turn out okay. There's one. And two. Okay, so there are those two. Put this up. Oops, put this up. All right, so now all I need is my dimensionals for assembly, and we will get started. So I'm going to slide this off. I'm going to go ahead and glue this down, because this has a lot of different nooks and crannies to it. So I usually tend to like to use liquid glue, because it'll fill it in and hold it on really, really well. All right, there's one. You could even kind of distress up the edges of this layer, and it would look like a really old rustic thing. I think this would look really, really nice too, just as a total side note, if you did this in crumb cake, on crumb cake with the greens, or even in Sahara sand. So just a couple other little options. So I'm going to put these down with just liquid glue, and then I'm going to pop up the tree. So liquid glue, what side? We decided on the candy canes and the Christmas trees. And I do think that if you're going to do this, that it's kind of better to make them diagonal to each other. That way they're not right next to each other and too matchy-matchy, because I almost think that wouldn't look so good. Okay, so let's see here. All right, I'm going to put these down first. Do our candy canes. And I'm just going to scoot these up a little bit as I go. So crazy. I think I just heard one lone cicada outside, and it has been pretty cool here at night in Maryland. I thought they were all gone. I think next year is when we get the crazy ones. I don't know if all of you have ever experienced cicadas, but when they're mating, they are really, really, really loud, and they kind of just drop dead everywhere. Pretty much all they do is come up to mate and lay eggs. I don't know how they even do that, but I know it's a thing where they come out of the ground. So I'm just going to give this a press, since we have a lot of bumps. But it is kind of like the thing of, if you live in this area and you're used to it with the summer, that's kind of the nice part of it. I'm actually going to put dimensionals on my Christmas tree. Don't have any more hummingbirds. I haven't seen any hummingbirds in some time, so I'm guessing they've all started to head back south. All right, so I have my Christmas tree. I'm going to put in the center. And oops, look at that, low battery. So I'm just in time. I'm almost done. Battery, don't die yet. I'm going to put a teeny bit of glue on the center. Whoops. Put that right here. Just right in the middle. If you wanted to, you could certainly stack some little mini dimensionals underneath, but I kind of think it looks nice how it is. And then I'm just going to add a few stars to this. And I'm not going to just add them on the top. I'm going to put them kind of randomly because you do get a lot of stars in this kit. I have had this same kit from last year because they did bring it back again from last year. And I will tell you, I made a lot of cards with it and I still have a lot of stuff left. And we'll just put one at the top. That looks pretty fun. Just like that. So this is a great kit. It definitely has a lot of use. You also don't necessarily have to have it for Christmas. You could certainly do some Valentine's or, oh, there's my other present. You could do some Valentine's or some other stuff with it as well. But today we did three, let me scoot these out of the way. We did 3 different cards. So simple, a little bit stepped up, and then a whole lot of stepped up with the embossing folder and everything else added to it. I hope you guys enjoyed this today. I want to thank you all so very much for joining me. I know today was my old usual day, and one day when I'm not teaching anymore, we probably will go back, like maybe in the summer. But I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. Every time you join me, I really do appreciate crafting with you. It makes it so much more fun than crafting by yourself. Believe me, I know that sounds crazy, but it is 100% the truth. This is one of my favorite times of whatever day when I join you all and we all do some fun crafting together. Again, I tried to use the same supplies for this, which is why they're all in Old Olive, but you could switch it up. But I try to make things sometimes that maybe if you have limited supplies and you're just starting out, you can make a bunch of fun cards too, just with very limited products. Again, the punch for this is the Postage stamp punch, which is currently on back order, but it will be shipping. I feel like they said they was shipping either this week or next week. But thank you guys so very much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. I will be live again tomorrow on YouTube, so make sure you join me there, usually around 6 o'clock or so. YouTube does give really good alerts when someone is live. You usually get it almost instantly. So if you don't follow me on YouTube already, if you head over there, or if you are there now, and you click subscribe, which will be below, and you turn on the bell icon, it will let you know every time I go live or when I post a new video. If you'd like to get any of these supplies and more, you can shop my online store 24/7, rachthestamper.stampinup.net. Make sure you follow me on my blog, which is rachthestamper.com. I put sometimes new projects there that I don't post anywhere else. And you can also find me on Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, pretty much any platform at Rachthestamper. Thanks guys for watching. I'll talk to you again real soon. Have a great week.